Hi, I'm Carol O'Mara with Colorado State University Extension in Boulder County, here to talk about victory gardens in the United States and how you can help your community by growing your own food. Victory gardens haven't always been associated with wartime. In fact, throughout history, when economic times start getting a little tight for everybody, people turn to gardening. They return to working the earth. This not only gives them good exercise, but it also helps them grow some food for themselves. The first recorded history of an actual project around getting Americans to garden dates back to the economic crash of 1893, when a lot of different cities were really devastated by the downturn in the economy. But Detroit Mayor Hazen Pingree looked out on his city, and what he saw was possibility. And he started a program that people nicknamed Pingree's Potato Patches. But it was really the Detroit plan, where unemployed, hungry, working class people, many of whom were recent immigrants from Central Europe and came from farming backgrounds, were allotted vacant lots in order to plant gardens. They were given certain supplies, such as seed sources and, yes, seed potatoes. And by 1896, over 1,700 Detroit families were working over 400 acres of gardens. This got the attention of other cities such as Denver, Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, and Philadelphia, and it was replicated, and it thrived for a couple of years. Once America returned to prosperity, these potato patches fell out of favor. But then, unfortunately, World War I came to the shores of the United States. We entered it on April 16th, 1917, and a combination of factors caused some shortages and also some rising food prices here in the United States. One of the problems we had was young men joined the military in order to go fight the war, and that meant that there was a labor shortage on our farms, so we couldn't plant or harvest the crops that we had here. More devastatingly, the hunger that was taking hold in Europe was caused by land being torn up by the war itself. Farmers in Europe did join the war effort, but also their property, the ground that they tilled and grew crops on, was churned up through the war, and it became impossible for them to plant or harvest anything. It fell on North America to supply the majority of food for allies fighting in the war and for the European citizens themselves. Back home, this created some shortages and some rationing in the United States, also rising food prices. Here in Colorado, we didn't really see a lot of the rationing that took place in other areas, but Coloradoans definitely felt the rise in food prices as well as fuel. National and local defense councils came together and encouraged people to start growing food. And Charles Lathrop Pack organized the National War Garden Commission in 1917 to encourage Americans to contribute to the war effort by growing their own gardens. This was a two-pronged process. What they were hoping for is not only people growing food, but also getting out and getting some exercise. The president, Woodrow Wilson, also got into the encouragement for growing gardens by putting a call out to all Americans to turn all idle land to use. So vacant land such as rooftops, schoolyards were planted, and a coalition of young gardeners in the School Garden Army was created. School children were encouraged to plant their schoolyards with gardens, and thousands of these sprung up across the United States. To keep the kids engaged, a little bit of cosplay was used in order to motivate them, and they were dubbed soldiers of the soil. Just like their adult counterparts that were off fighting the enemy, they were back home doing their bit for America. After the armistice was signed and the war came to a stop, America still had to get back on its feet and get back to economic prosperity. So the gardening programs continued. Whereas they had been called war gardens during the war, Now they were called Liberty Gardens. These Liberty Gardens were a way to encourage people to continue to grow food so that supplies could level out, so that prices could come down, and we could ship some still to the recovering countries in Europe. During this time frame, 3 million gardens were planted in 1917, and that grew to the end of 1918 with over 5.2 million gardens. As hoped, the consumption of purchased foods in the United States did drop by about 15% between 1918 and 19, and that helped with getting things back on track for developing supplies and also shipping things over to Europe to help alleviate some of their hunger. And on the home front, people were canning fruits and vegetables in case shortages came up again. And at that time, it's estimated that 1.45 million quarts of fruits and vegetables were put aside. The gardening efforts did wane after America returned to prosperity, but unfortunately, prosperity comes and goes, and we did experience the Great Depression. And during the Great Depression, gardening was revived as a program to get America outdoors and getting exercise, but also growing some food for themselves. This gardening program was referred to as relief gardens, but later they were mocked by political opponents and called welfare gardens. So they fell out of favor after around 1935. When World War II started ravaging the globe, the National Victory Garden Program was created by the War Food Administration, and they set 5 main goals that you see here. The Victory Garden Program was designed to lessen demand on commercial vegetable supplies so that these could be sent to support the troops over in Europe and the Pacific Theater. It also reduced demand on the strategic materials used in food processing and canning, and those materials could be turned to creating wartime items. It eased the burden on railroads so that they could focus on transporting war munitions. It maintained the vitality and morale of Americans doing the gardening because they were producing their own fruits and vegetables and also getting that exercise. And preserving fruits and vegetables was popular again in order to set aside some to prevent shortages in the future. This was a big success in World War II. In 1942, about 5.5 million gardeners participated in the war effort, planting over 15 million gardens. Seed prices or seed sales skyrocketed over 300%, and the effort continued to grow. By 1944, it's estimated that over 20 million gardens had been planted. These gardens accounted for 44% of the fresh vegetables being consumed in the United States. And it's estimated that between 9 and 10 million pounds of fruits and vegetables were grown each year in this effort. So popular was the National Victory Garden Project that the May 1943 Life magazine called it the greatest outdoor fad since miniature golf. Many people took to gardening and did so happily. Others not so much, but they didn't mind their neighbors and spouses sticking a shovel into the soil, especially if they're as nattily clad as this man here, who's gardening in his suit slack and tie. Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady of the United States, planted a victory garden on the White House's south lawn. This caused a bit of controversy with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The U.S. Department of Agriculture opposed the idea because they felt it would send the wrong signal to the farmers of America, that it would send the signal that the government didn't have faith in their ability to provide for us. But that didn't stop the First Lady, and she persevered, planting the Victory Garden on the South Lawn. And even though this was largely a symbolic gesture, what she did is she used it as a springboard to call on all Americans to start growing their own food to help alleviate shortages. The city of Denver got involved also, and in March 1943, our own Mayor Stapleton dedicated Denver's first Victory Garden in what is now Congress Park. The Victory Garden movement of World War II persisted for a couple of years and then faded away. Americans have had a love affair with gardening that comes and goes with different economic downturns, and we're experiencing one of those right now. And here's where you come in. We have hunger in our community, and it's our turn as modern gardeners to rise to meet the needs. It's estimated that 1 in every 11 Coloradoans struggles with hunger. Of them, 1 in 8 are children. And while the average cost of a meal in Colorado is $3.29, food stamp assistance only provides an average of $1.39 per meal. And according to Feeding America, projected rates for food insecurity in Colorado in 2020 are going to rise from 9.9% overall to 14 to 15%. Most alarmingly, the children who are food insecure, their percentage rate is projected to be 21 to 23%, which is a possible 78% rate change. That rate change, which is so dramatic, places Colorado 3rd on the list of the largest percent change in child food insecurity. Gardeners, we can make a difference, and every bite counts. And I'd like to show you how you can get involved in a modern Victory Garden project called Grow and Give. This is spearheaded by Colorado State University Extension statewide. And I'd like to show you how you can learn to grow food and share the harvest and keep it local. Let me go ahead and switch my screens here, and I will be able to show you how you can sign up. This is the Grow and Give landing page for our Victory Garden project. And when you type in growandgivecolorado.org, this is where you'll land. This page is filled with a lot of resources for gardeners. You can register right here up at top. Register your garden to pledge to grow and give some of your produce to your neighbors in need, perhaps community food banks or food pantries. Then scroll back down through the page and you'll find a lot of different things. Under the Grow Resources is a huge library of resources for people who are gardening now and you need answers or ideas. You can see here that you have access to a free book, the Colorado Vegetable Guide, and this is an 85-page resource with crop-by-crop information for all regions of the state. It doesn't matter if you're gardening down on the flatlands or up at elevation. We'll be posting that version in Spanish very soon. But don't stop there. You scroll down and you can see a lot of other resources, such as planting after your last frost. If you click on this, you get to information that's specific to crops like tomatoes, peppers, beans. You can see small videos, you can watch longer webinars, or you can read materials such as our plant talk or our fact sheets. When you're ready to donate, click on the Give resources. These Give resources are going to drop you into a page that really comes together with a lot of information on how you grow, but also keeping your produce safe for donation, following good food safety practices. Here are steps for donating as a PDF so that you get an idea of what you can do to make sure the food that you donate is safe for your neighbors and your community. You report your donations here with this large orange button. Click on it, and it's an easily fillable form where you talk about how many pounds you donated, so you would need to weigh them before you give them away, and what you weighed them doing. Colorado gardeners have donated over 5,000 pounds of produce at this point in the season at the beginning of August, and you can help that number grow. If you're looking for a location to donate, scroll down to the bottom of the page. As you see here, there's a where to donate information by county. And you simply click on whichever county you want to look in. For example, Jefferson County. That'll bring you to an Excel spreadsheet that will jump to the county that you've selected. In this case, it's Jefferson, and you can see a list here of food pantries and whether or not they're going to accept produce. Not all food pantries have the same rules, so check here and select one that's going to work for you as far as location and days and times that they accept produce. But if you're not sure where you're going to be, you could also check out this interactive map of locations across Colorado. This map is constantly being updated, but it is one that you can click on to search in your area. To make it larger so you can zoom in, click on this plus down here so that you can zoom in to the area that you're looking at. For those that are located in Jefferson County, you can see here are a few food pantries listed on the map. The Grow and Give website is updated every week. So if you're looking for information, check back routinely. We have new things all the time. I'm going to stop sharing on this one now. And I'm going to switch back over to this one. Let's get growing, Colorado. You want to join the Grow and Give project, a modern victory garden project from Colorado State University Extension. Learn more, grow more. Contact your local CSU Extension office. Thanks for listening and happy gardening.